words. A man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. I want to begin this morning with a little bit of a window into the Chinle ministry and the lessons that I've learned from quarantine. If we can show the video. This video would have been the first police officer that died of COVID-19. Funeral was just a few days ago. Next frame. This was a believer in the Kayenta Church who died of COVID-19 just 3 weeks ago. Next frame. This is Jennifer Taya. She was the first lady to pass COVID-19 in our congregation. Last frame. Our first missionary to China. May 27th, June 27th. Passed away of COVID-19. The greatest lesson that I learned in quarantine is manifest in the text that is before us. Chinle, Arizona, a reservation community in Apache County. The home of Canyon Deshay, where coronavirus began to take its full hold of that little community. Chinle has got a population of 5,218 according to the last census. And as I am standing on this stage this morning, we now have 2,000 plus cases in this little town, making our population 37% affected. Some called it a government conspiracy. Others called it a hoax. Some even believed that it was the effects of 5G technology. The only problem is, Chinle doesn't even have good 3G. So for you techies, God bless you. But few took it seriously. The assault began in a little reservation church in a town called Chilchimbato. The second assault was on the Chinle Police Department. We were very close with the Chinle Police Department, and 55% of the police officers found themselves infected. As we were doing the funeral for Officer Michael Lee, we got the second word that a second officer, a woman, had lost her life. The coronavirus did not end there. It entered into the Chinle congregation. We had already been closed, and 50 people plus in our congregation, including the two losses. Thursday past was funeral 35 in my ministry in the last few weeks. This is not a sermon on COVID-19. It is, however, a sermon on how we speak, especially during the times of trial and tribulation. As I was dealing with all of these cases of this wicked monster, maybe it was the burial of Donnie, where words mattered. Or maybe it was the families that you're speaking to that lost a father on Wednesday and a son on Tuesday. Our words begin a major issue in my life. Speaking death and life on the power of what I'm going to say. Not to mention the mental torment, the overwhelming fear that plagued the entire city. And I will tell you this morning, the implementation of masks and social distancing and taking temperatures at the door and the restrictions took on a whole new meaning. I found it very desperate to look and to find the words of life, words of encouragement. In the midst of all that we were going through, the conspiracy of the takeover of the government wasn't going to fly with everyone we were dealing with. They thought that it was some type of other event in life. It weren't the words that were going to bring forth life. Now I can give you a window into my own heart. During this time, and why our words are so important, is I found it very easy to complain. Complain about everything. We had to take temperatures for our post office, our grocery store. Everywhere we went, the restrictions were in full swing to this very day. It was easy to be extremely opinionated. And in the light of all that we were dealing with, you know what, I know we all have opinions, but sometimes our opinions can be easily out of place. The insensitivity that overwhelmed my own life. And I knew the only thing that was going to matter. Praying for people through screens. Funeral meetings in a dark outside patio. Overwhelming circumstances. I knew that the words that I would speak were going to be critical. And only the words of life were going to help. I want to talk to you firstly about the warning. The warning that our text is presenting. Death and life in the power of the tongue. This text will apply to all men. I can tell you that many have lost their lives because of their tongue. And some have saved their lives by the words they have chosen through the power of their tongue. There is a clear warning found in our text that our tongues, especially as preachers, hangs the power of life and death. Our speech can be the greatest tool of evil. And it can also be the greatest tool of good. A man may do a great deal of good or a great deal of hurt, both to others and to him himself, according to the use that he makes of his own speech and his tongue. I've come to learn that the wonderful gift of speech, the way we as ministers transmit our ministry and our calling, this should never be taken for granted, nor should it be abused, but it should be guarded for the use of the glory of God and its intended purpose. The Bible is not shy concerning the warnings of the tongue in the Word of God. James chapter 5 verse 5, James chapter 3 verses 5 through 12 says these words. Even so the tongue is a little member, and it boasts great things. Behold how great a matter a little fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue amongst our members, that defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature, and it is set on the fires of hell. For every kind of beast and of bird and of serpent and the things in the sea is tamed and has been tamed of mankind. But the tongue no man can tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison, wherewith we bless God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men which are made after the similitude of God. And out of the same mouth proceeds blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. Does a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries, either a vine of figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and flesh. Our speech, I believe today, through the lessons I've learned in quarantine, that our words must be considered as ministers. Our speech is seriously spiritual, and it gives us a window into the heart. I can tell you that Satan in the flesh want to control the tongue. More damage is done to our lives and our homes and our churches by the tongue than by any other means. I have seen entire ministries rise and fall on the words that are being spoken. And it is sobering to realize that the tongue can be used to damage reputations and to cause trouble and to breed all kinds of discouragement. And our speech must be considered. In James chapter 1, verse 19, it says, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, and slow to speak, and slow to wrath." There's never been a time in my life for my ministry where I was so concerned with the words that I was speaking. Here I am with the privilege of unbelievable influence to bury this police officer. They brought in broadband and mounted it to our building. They haven't come back for it. 9/10 of ownership is possession. I feel I'm all important. What's that big antenna on the Potter's house? That's live stream broadband. I don't even know what that means. But it looks good from the road. The president of the Navajo Nation, the vice president, 70 police officers. And I just want you to know that I was very concerned with the words that they were going to hear from this pastor. Once in a lifetime, every funeral I done, the overwhelming photographic images burned in my mind. Here's a 78-year-old man, maybe older, couldn't find anyone to bury his wife. There were only 10 of us at the gravesite, and his hand is on her casket as it's being lowered. And I was deeply, deeply concerned with the words that I was about to speak. The tongue can be used for right purposes, bringing peace, giving wise reproof to the erring, delivering the lost souls from death, teaching people the things of the Lord, and an encouraging word. As I sit there and watched Donnie's family, we're 30 miles in the middle of nowhere. It's time for me to say the committal at the gravesite. A missionary, a decorated military war hero. And only 10 people at his funeral. But all 10 were deeply listening to the words the pastor had to speak. Proverbs 15:1 says, "A soft answer turns away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger." The tongue is a little member. It's a little member of the body, but must be yielded to God as a tool of righteousness. The challenge of our text for all of us here today and those listening on live stream is to consider the power of our tongue, and that may we be a word of encouragement in a very dark hour, and that we would use the gift of speech carefully. I don't want to be over-opinionated. In these last few weeks of my ministry, you know what the truth is? My opinion really didn't matter. There were blood and guts everywhere. It didn't matter. But words of truth, words of consolation, words of kindness. And it was a challenge to consider this as I maneuvered my life. And it's been a careful approach to every episode of my life in the last few weeks. I want to talk to you secondly about the problem. Our tongues can be a major problem in our lives and ministries. And I can tell you that it is our tongue that is the measuring of a man. And the words that we use, it does not take long to sit around a few folks, man or woman, and we can clearly see what's at work in their heart. The measuring of a man is determined by the word he speaks. Our text tells us that death and life are in the power of the tongue. And the words that we speak are a window into the heart of man. In the book of Luke, chapter 6, verse 45, the Bible says, "A good man out of the good measure of his, out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth that which is good. And an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth that which is evil. For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth will speak." It's a measuring rod. In Matthew chapter 15, verse 18. "But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man." The measuring rod of our lives and our heart, a window into what's in us, is manifested in the words that we choose to speak. Job 6:24. "Teach me, and I will hold my tongue, and cause me to understand wherein I have erred. Teach me to hold my tongue." Job 10:1, a telling scripture. "My soul is weary of life. I will leave my complaints upon myself. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul." Our words give us a window into our heart. It's more than complaint or discouragement. It's more than bitterness or anger. It's even deeper than rebellion. You know, you hear people talk and they will say stuff like, "I'm not a rebel, but," and then they begin to spew on you. I got news for you. It's worse than the R word. It's worse than the whole picture of being a rebel. Listen to me. It is a window into your heart. And how we talk during the difficult times of our life is at least my lesson from quarantine. I want to speak to you about another subject that involves the tongue. It's the spirit of lawlessness, which I believe is the bigger picture. And I believe that especially in the dispensation that we are in our society today and in our fellowship, and I want you to listen to me carefully. And I actually think it's good that I'm preaching this, because I have gone across the fellowship as the fellowship mayor or the pastor of love. I've even been mocked. Love, Pastor Aragon, love. We correct someone, they could go get hugs from Artie. Not no more, you have to get an air hug, sorry. But I do believe there's a spirit of lawlessness that's unleashed, and it's demonic in nature. And it's the bigger problem. We are living in a time of complete lawlessness that is being manifest, especially in the words that are being spoken. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, and I had a father who actually taught us that you will respect and you will honor your elders. You will say, yes, sir, no, sir, thank you, sir. My dad, God bless his heart, is a died-to-the-world Catholic Democrat. I don't know what he's going to do now. He's a backslid everything. But he said it doesn't matter who's in office. You respect them and you honor them. I can remember when Richard Nixon won the White House. We were sat down and taught, you're going to honor him, you're going to respect him, you're going to honor his office and his rank. We are taught that police officers were to be recognized and to honored. Living in a dispensation of lawlessness. The book of Jude and 2 Peter pick up this thought that should be deeply concerning to us as ministers today. In Jude 1 and 8 it says, likewise also these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominions and governments, and speak evil of dignities. In 2 Peter 2 and 10 it says, but chiefly them that walk after the flesh, in the lust of uncleanliness, and despise governments. Presumptuous are they, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignities, whereas angels, which are greater in power and might, bring not railing accusation against them before the Lord. This lawlessness can clearly be seen in our American politics today. I can't tell you that I am an extremely, overwhelmingly supporter of Donald Trump. Even though I did vote for him and I will vote for him again. And if you're a Navajo and listening to me, you ought to pull for the first time the Republican lever. Freebies have ruined us. But I've never in my life seen a man appointed in leadership every day. Can you imagine what it's like to be him? He is a human being, you know. Can you imagine being his children? Can you imagine being his wife? I mean, the words used on this guy daily. Sean Hannity said, they are so horrible on this president. he could find a cure for cancer, and they'd find a reason to destroy him with their words. The destroying of landmarks? Are you kidding me? The natives were all excited when the statue of Christopher Columbus came down. Well, I got news for you. It didn't heal the fatherlessness. It did nothing to alter the alcoholism. It's done nothing to aid. Are you kidding me? Leave it alone. The words I mean to tell you, the lawlessness. The bigger problem. The defunding of the police. This spirit of lawlessness is concerning to me especially because it's assault on those who are in authority. The words that are being used on people in authority, words that are being spoken, manifest through news and media and social computers and telephones and texting. Get an opinion. Now we can post it. It can hit the world in moments. I want to focus for a few moments on the bigger problems, which is the dignities. And I think this is what's going to be very important for you and I as we go forward. The word dignities here actually defines itself biblically as men deserving of honor and respect. And I believe that is worthy for every pastor listening. There's nothing more discouraging, as Pastor Cox mentioned, than for congregations or disciples to turn on their pastor. It is amazing to me, the dignities. These are men that are deserving of honor and respect in spite of our humanity. It's the honor of the office. Dignities means men who've been exalted in rank. This is a very interesting subject because in our fellowship, and we see it more and more, there is an exalting of rank where men are exalted into position that they may not even necessarily fit. I can remember when Pastor Heimberg became my pastor. I made a vow to myself. I'm going to honor him. I'm going to respect him. I'm going to support him. I'm going to love him. And I will not allow my opinions or my words to speak against him. The lawlessness of the hour is a spirit that will rise up that is not afraid to talk about these things. Not afraid to speak evil against those exalted in rank. The final meaning of dignities. There are men exalted in rank, and these men did not regard the rank or the station or the office. And I want to tell you, this violates the plainest rules of truth and of our salvation. When we do not watch how we speak of those who are exalted in position or those deserving of honor. This is a spirit. And for most of you intimidating pastors listening to me today, And Pastor Ruby, I probably need to give you a check. You've been pastoring my church for months. Pastor, we saw you, but did you hear Pastor Ruby? Okay, I'll send him a check. We've always learned of a Jezebel spirit. When I discovered this revelation, we've always been taught that Jezebel is a her. But I want to tell you, this is a Jezebel spirit. And it does not have a gender. You can be a man and have a Jezebel spirit. And through very little study, you will find out that it's not just woman control or domination over a husband. Her primary sin was the killing of the prophets. This spirit, without gender, can be a man or a woman, manifesting in the speaking of division and discouragement, sowing discord against the dignities. This can be noticed by the disregard and the complaints to those in authority, to discredit and to question. This Jezebel spirit usually starts by saying, I don't know anymore. What's happening? Oh my God! A temperature at the door! Moved to Chinle for 1 week. I had to call Pastor Greg. I didn't think I was going to be able to come to this conference. If you've been exposed to the coronavirus in the last 2 weeks, Pastor Greg, I can't go, man. I've been exposed to the coronavirus 15 times today. We delivered food boxes, hand sanitizer, Clorox, PPE. This ain't in the sermon, but Jesus didn't turn the lepers away. I'm not going to go to church anymore because of all the restrictions. Are we following Governor Ducey? As the Mexican vato said, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. Your words. Do you think we want to do it this way? I'm not wearing a mask. Go to Chinle one day, you'll wear 2 masks. Speaking divisions. What's going to happen now? All that's happening. Well, I can prophesy over this bunch. We're going to plant churches, raise up disciples, and we're to take the world for Jesus Christ. That's what's going to happen now. But when you have the Jezebel spirit, bigger problem. Manifesting in mass media. You're a fool if you believe everything you read on social media. We use phone texting to transmit our complaints and our spirit. I don't like the direction we're going. I am so vexed. The Jezebel spirit. There's another character in the story of Jezebel that I believe, if I can transmit this correctly, we can put a stop to the Jezebel spirit in our society. Nobody, I'm older now, and I can't remember everything, but I can't remember a sermon in the multitudes of conferences I've been to where someone ever talked about her husband. He's not an innocent dude here. So what is the sin of Ahab? His name is quite interesting. It actually means brother. And it's interesting to note that the Jezebel Spirit and the sowing of discord does have a pattern of following and being transmitted from brother to brother. Ahab will give us great understanding that I believe will give direction for our lives as we go forward. Ahab's only sin was he was the only person in that era of time that would tolerate Jezebel. And rightly so, he was married to her, I guess. I just want to say, in the broader scope of things, empirical knowledge has given us a great picture to the effects of what happens when we tolerate division and dissension and discord and evil speaking, especially amongst brethren in headship. And I've come to learn that there's no way to measure the debris when any group of men follow down this road. It's interesting to me that Pastor Cox brought up the issue of the 90s. There's no way to measure the debris. We know which direction this goes. I just want to say this before we close. Whenever you get someone that wants to complain, as convincing as it may sound, we have to reference 1 John 3 and 12, the account of Cain killing his brother. It was because of his own works were evil, and his brothers were righteous. I want to encourage everyone here today. We better watch the words we speak, lest this spirit of lawlessness get on us and we become unafraid to speak of dignities. I want to close with the opening of the windows of heaven. This is going to be a determining factor in our lives. The clear instructions to the position we must take as we see the return of Jesus Christ. A major factor is going to be how we treat each other in the last days. I am absolutely amazed at the multitude of references that are given in chronological order towards the end of the writings of the Scripture, right before the book of Revelations. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John is overwhelmed with concerns about how we treat each other. This is going to play a major role. Galatians chapter 5 says these words, "Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap. If we do not faint, as we therefore have opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them of the household of the faith." That's us. Psalms 133:1. "Behold, and how good and how pleasant it is for brethren," that's us, "the window to open from heaven, for them to dwell together in unity. like the precious ointment upon the beard that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments as the dew of Hermon, as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessings, even life forevermore. How we treated each other. We have learned serious things of what happens when this Spirit is unleashed. I want to close by just mentioning these few things. Now, this is going to go sideways with a lot of sideways men. But I want to tell you something. It is a privilege beyond words and understanding to live for God and to serve as a pastor. I know full well that Jesus Christ saved me by His grace and His mercy, and to that I am greatly indebted. But I also know full well, and I think I'm speaking for all of us, that it has been this ministry, this platform, Pastor Mitchell, Pastor Greg, and the staff, the ministry in Gallup, New Mexico, I know full well that they have given me the opportunities that I am living in today. I could have done this in no other ministry. And for this cause, loyalty, commitment, and appreciation for my headship is in order. The final words of Donnie Benelli to his pastor. Moments before he was intubated and he would never speak again. 9:15 a.m. Pastor, this is Donnie. I love you, Pastor. I love Sandra. Thank you for everything you've done for me and my family. I close with this last story. I think we are all very attentive to the announcement made in Prescott that said Sunday morning. I heard the announcement and I picked up my phone. And I'm not ashamed of this. I think my character bears this out. I text Pastor Greg. I said, Pastor, I love you. I called Pastor Mitchell. I said, I love you. I tell Pastor Heimberg all the time how much I love him. I'll do anything for him. But I just want to say, this is not a statement of Hallmark and out-of-control emotions and the Artie factor. Come on. You guys made me dig for this. The root meaning of G25 and the word love in the New Testament, and its wider definition, and I close with this. It's Pastor Greg, Pastor Mitchell, Pastor Heimberg. The word means embracing, especially the judgments and the deliberate compliance of the will as a matter of principle and duty and the standard of life. I basically was saying, I'm with you and I will not be moved. How we treat each other is going to play a major role in the last days. God richly bless you.